Hello! Today we are going to talk more about the box model and how you can control layout with floats and CSS. Okay, we talked a little bit in the last video about clearing floats. All right, so clearing floats is important because the clear property says, okay, we're going to stop the float now. Everything else you push down. Okay, so you can clear left, right, or both. So in other words, you can have something pushed down to the left, pushed down to the right, pushed down on both sides, or not pushed down, and that is the default. It allows floating elements on both sides. Okay, so one of the rules about clearing floats is that you should match the clear to the float. So if you float it to the left and you want everything else to push down, you clear to the left. And then the cleared element will appear below. So when do you clear a float? When you want whatever it is to appear below, not beside. All right, now let's go back to our overflow image from last time. So as you can see, okay, sometimes, these are all floating just fine, but we've got a problem here, and that is that the kitty is bigger than the box. So what do you think might be a quick fix for that? This is called overflow. So this is an overflow image, and you can also have overflow text. Now in this case, it's a picture. I know what size it is, and I can fix that float very easily just by changing the size of the box or changing that class in CSS. So change the height of the box, change the size of the image. I could do either one of those things. Okay, but if this image has already been resized, remember we talked about resampling, please do not resample it down again. It's just going to degrade the quality of the image. And if we, using the width and height properties in the image tag, width and height attributes, that's not a good idea. Why? Because it's just going to make your website load slower. So we're going to use this very, very simply. I'm going to change the class. So as an example, let's go back and I'm going to look at what we had before. So floats.html, and I think our style sheet was called style divs. Okay, so in our floats.html, I'm going to just go ahead and preview that. Okay, so if I have the size of the boxes, so the kitty is width of 300 and height of 200. So I didn't bother you with that last time. I made the height 240, but if I want the height to be, if I had made the height 240, now look at this. We have a problem. The kitty is outside the box. So we're going to fix that very simply, and this is the easiest way to fix a float, or to fix an overflow problem, rather. I'm just going to make it 240 pixels tall. So that's a quick fix for an image. Now, that is overly easy, so we're going to talk about how to work with overflow in a more sophisticated way. All right, so flip back to the PowerPoint for a second. Okay, so I actually have this document overflow. I want you to start a new document, and you're going to create one div with some text. All right, so this is mine, and it has one div, just one, and the class is called overflow. We're going to write a class for it, and it's Martin Luther King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech. So we have our HTML5 skeleton document. We have our body tag. Inside that body tag, I have one div. Its class is equal to overflow, and then I have a headline. I have some text. I close out the div. I close out the body. I close out the HTML tag, and it looks like this. Okay, so that's great. Okay, so however, we can have this text. The line length is too long for easy reading, for one thing, and I want to add a picture anyway. So what I'm going to do is add a width of 50% and a padding of 1%. All right, so let's go to brackets and see how that plays out. All right, so I'm going to quick get rid of my floats and my style divs, and I'm going to go to overflow.html. So here it is. I have my div, class of overflow, and then I close out my div, and then here's overflow.css. Okay, so ignore the image right now. The class of overflow, remember class is denoted with a period. So the background color is this gray. It's called Gainsborough. I could just as easily have specified a hex color or an RGB color or an RGBA color for that. And I set the width to 50%. Okay, I set the height to auto. And I set the padding to 1%. So here's how that looks in practice. And we're going to see the image here. And that's okay. We're going to look at that in a second. Okay, I have a dream today. So at 50%, our image is contained within a box, and it has a nice bit of padding in between the edge of the box and the beginning of the type. So let's mess it up. I'm going to take out height of auto. Let's see what happens. Okay, nothing. Huh. Well, with the kitty, if I took out height, it overflowed out of the box. So why doesn't the text overflow out of the box? The reason it doesn't overflow out of the box is because the box will expand to fit the text. But that is not the most sophisticated way of handling overflow. Okay, so let's do this. Overflow, and look, we have these properties. I had it on auto before. I could also have the overflow hide. And what I am going to do instead is I'm going to have the overflow scroll. All right. Wait a minute. It doesn't scroll. What's up with that? Well, we need to specify a height. So I'm going to specify a height, and then you'll see the scroll bar. Height. I can have auto or inherit. And I'm going to specify a height of auto, which is what I had before. So overflow should be scroll. And it still looks fine. But watch what happens when I add an image to this. So I have already put in the CSS for the image. I just haven't put in the image itself. Okay, so let's add an image. And I am going to go ahead and I'm going to quick flip back to the PowerPoint. So overflow visible, hidden versus scroll. Here's that scroll bar. We're going to get it back in a minute. And then we're going to add a picture. So image source is going to be images, martinlutherking.jpg. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and plop that into my brackets document right in front of the text and after the headline. IMG src equals, and look at all this stuff. Images, and I have a cat and I have Martin Luther King, and I think I'm going to pick the cat. Okay, so let's close out that tag, and let's go ahead and preview the document. There it is. Now, I want you to notice something. The text hits the edge of the box, and look at this. The box got bigger to accommodate the text. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to work with the CSS on this, overflow.css. Now, look at Martin Luther King here. He floats right. Let's have him float left just for fun. Okay, and he needs margin. Right now he has margin right of 4 pixels. I don't think that's enough. I'm going to make a margin of, and remember, since we're dealing with CSS, we really ought to deal with percentages anyway. So I'm going to give him margin of 1% on the right. Actually, I feel like he needs a little bit more margin on the right, 2%. Okay, so now he floats to the right underneath the headline. He has a little bit of space in between the edge of the type and the beginning of the text. Okay, so one other thing that I want to look at, and that's I want to look at creating a scroll bar. So we are going to do that. So that's all we want to do today. We're going to have overflow scroll here in a second. And the way we're going to do that is by adding a height in pixels. So overflow is going to be scroll, height's going to be 150 pixels. So let's flip back to brackets and we're going to accomplish that. So instead of height auto, I'm going to make the height 150 px. Overflow is already set to scroll. And let's go back to overflow.html. Actually, if you noticed, I spelled overflow wrong. That's all right. Okay, so now this is clipped, so that's not what I want. Let's see. Let's go back to overflow. Float left, margin right. Overflow should scroll. It should not be. Okay, so here's an example of overflow that is overflow where the text and the picture overflow the box. And I'm going to make overflow scroll again. And I'm just going to change the size of the box because the picture is affecting my overflow. So let's see, 250, nope. 350, nope. He's a little bit bigger than that. 400, okay. So now we should start seeing the scroll. All right, so guys, here's the deal. Sometimes the brackets preview doesn't give you exactly what you want. For example, it's not showing the scroll for me right now, and that's irritating me. So I am going to open that up in something different. I'm going to open it up in Dreamweaver. Or I could open it up in, whoops, I'm uploading something, I could open it up in, just in Chrome. Okay, right now it's clipped. All right, so guess what? We are going to fix that and come back to it in a different video. Thank you for watching. Excuse my mistake. You get extra credit for that one. Good for you.